I paid a lovely jubbly bubbly £148 for this faulty PlayStation 5. The eBay listing simply states that it just does not power on. Why would that be? Overall condition of the console is actually excellent. No marks or scuffs from what I can see. However, I hate to break it to you, we do not have a warranty sticker. And it looks like there might have been a prior warranty sticker from a previous repair job. Hence why I think £148 is a relatively good price for a disc edition faulty PS5. Let's see what they're talking about when they say that there's no power. Please don't blow my electrics up. Do we get, okay, we get a single beep by the sounds of it. Nothing else though. Doesn't seem to be doing anything. This exact model seems to be a 1216A, which is one of the newish models. Not as new as the Slim, but just before that. If I take a close look at the front panel here, I can see that it's not being put back together correctly, and it almost looks as if this bit is just like popping out. Let's get it taken apart, and perhaps there might be some previous technician damage. First things first, that is the wrong screw to go in there. It should be a small one. Maybe we've got a case of long screw damage. That's really bent as well. Don't know if you can tell. I've been repairing consoles for the best part of, 3 to 4 years now, I'd say. I actually started from scratch, knowing nothing, and documented it on this YouTube channel. You can see my very first repair on the channel if you sort by oldest. And let me tell you, you think you've seen it all? You absolutely haven't. On the face of it, it doesn't look horrendous. The one thing I will say is this is bent up. Can you see that? It's not meant to be. It's meant to be flat. And the actual board itself is sticking up because there's a little nibbit just here. Nibbit, is that a word? And if you don't put it through the hole in the board, it basically sits on top of it, which pushes it up. Oh, they've put a screw down here. I was like, why is this not coming out? They put a screw here. Okay, is that okay? Seems to be all right. My job isn't to shame people at all here. My job is to just simply fix things. But if somebody has paid for this as a repair and they haven't put screws back in the correct places and they've bent the board in certain areas and they've put screws back in the wrong places that could potentially cause damage, you do have to ask some questions because people would have paid money for that. Wait, what? What's going on here? Somebody put a screw in upside down. Why is this screw upside down? I've never seen it. Yep, somebody has put a screw in through the wrong way. Again, never seen it. Looks like they maybe put one in here first and then went, oh, that's wrong. Let me turn the board over and put it in this. I don't even know how that's possible. How have they managed that? I don't believe what I'm seeing. There's another screw down here that's been flipped upside down and screwed in from this way. Just based off the screw stuff alone, I have a feeling that this is going to be some serious issue as to why it's not working, Well, there's what looks to be like flux down here by this connector. I can't at the moment see any other residue on the board, like a flux or water damage, liquid damage, anything like that, which is obviously good news. This, for me, is always the make or break part. What are we going to find? We're also, again, missing some screws left, right, and center. How is it on the underside? Here we go. 3, 2, 1. I think I see flux around the SSD controller, which is this chip here. So we'll inspect that in a minute as well. Got some more flux down here. It's definitely, obviously we know it's been worked on anyway, but I see flux just on the copper here that is just thick flux. It doesn't look like the SSD controller is actually sat on properly. Joey, what is this SSD controller you're talking about? We actually have 6 SSD chips on the main motherboard, which is soldered, which is your main storage. That's why when people are like, where's the SSD to take this out? The only thing you can do is put in an additional SSD, but that isn't the core storage of the PS5. It's actually soldered onto the board. And this big chip here is the home connection for all of these chips. This is the simple way to describe it. It's like the hub, the central hub, and it can cause a lot of the beep on beep off issues with the PlayStation 5 or even no power. Now, before I dive into the nitty gritty of why the board's not working, I can see what's happened here. They've put the screws, these long screws back underneath here in the wrong places. Now, fun fact, I don't actually know where they are meant to go because I've never taken screws out of here. It usually comes out as one whole unit. I've never had to mess with these screws. Let's head on over to the scope then and see if we can see what's going on with this chip. Before we do that, a massive shout out to today's video sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay is your website for DIY. Get an instant quote on your PCBs at a low cost with fast delivery. New customers will also get a $5 welcome bonus. Fully customize your PCB with a few clicks, including the thickness of the board to the color of the solder mask. PCBWay also offers services in CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication, and also injection molding. Head on over to the gift store and grab yourself a multimeter or a soldering iron. PCBWay has it all. Thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring today's video. Now back to the repair. Right, SSD controller, talk to me. Are you on properly? No, you don't look like it at all. I can tell with my beady eyes here, even without looking at this under a scope, that it just didn't look right. It didn't look like it was sat on correctly, and it's not, because what it should do is sit on these corners flush, and it's just not. Can you see how it's moved? So if I now look under this chip, are we going to see issues. Do we see any bridges under here? What do I mean by bridges? Solder balls that are touching essentially where they shouldn't be. I don't know if a lot of that is flux or whether that is in fact just solder touching together. Let's look on this side as well. I mean, the balls are actually all right. I was thinking it was going to be a lot worse, but they don't look too... Ah, here we go. Look, can you see all of that? I think they're all bridges. It might actually just be flux, and where I'm looking exactly is just about right here. That might be flux itself. I don't know. I think I might just go with a reflow, you know, and see how we get on. Now, there's probably a lot of people thinking, well, Joey, you don't even know, like, you're just jumping into conclusions, but I can see that the chip isn't on correctly and that somebody's worked on it previous. So all I need to do is just line it up, and then I can go for a retest. Let me check the south bridge as well, because they pretty much come hand in hand when it comes to repair work. How does this look? Has this been worked on before? Maybe, but it looks pretty factory if you ask me. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I think that's all right. So I'm gonna just hit this with a quick reflow and see if I can get some of that flux out from underneath, which is going to be difficult. Now, unfortunately today I don't have a can of air, so getting the flux out from underneath this is going to be quite tricky. Lots of IPA, and the toothbrush is going to be needed, but the toothbrush won't get right under the chip. What I'm looking for is this chip just to bodge over a little bit. I might not even need to use my own flux, you know, because there is plenty under here. Let's see if this chip just moves on its own if I give it enough heat. Let's see. There's so much flux. Oh my gosh. I've not added any flux to this, by the way. And you can see how much is under there. I want to see if this moves on its own. If not, I might have to give it a nudge. Failing that, I'll have to take it off the board. I'm going to come in with a little nudge here, which I don't usually do, by the way. It's not moving. Okay. Still not moving. Still not moving. Okay, interesting. I don't know what solder they've used. Maybe they used cement. There we go. There it goes. Just like that. Pop. Give it a little nudge. You know what? That might be on now. I'll remove the hot air. Like I said, just try and soak up as much of this as I can with my microfiber cloth. I really want my can of air here. I'm going to try and flush this out and see what happens. Alright, let's inspect and see what it looks like around the IC. Do we still have some flux? We still have some flux under there. Flux under the south bridge really hurts the console because it can affect the crystal, but this looks alright. What about this side? Okay, it doesn't look like we have those bridges anymore, right? Which is really important. I can't remember what side they were though. All right, that looks good as well. I'm just going to put this back in the chassis and see if it does anything else. Right, here we go. I've put it back together enough to be able to test. I sorted out the liquid metal just in case it wasn't enough to cool the system, etc. But we should be okay now. 3, 2, 1. Okay, well, it looks like we were right for a change. Little reflow of the SSD controller. This person who attempted to repair this business, whatever it was so close. So close. Not all over yet though. Let me hook it up to a monitor and just make sure we actually get output. PS5 all signed in, looks to be working absolutely fine. I'm going to turn it off before it overheats. I also need to sort the entire situation when it comes to these screws here. I believe we're missing like 3 screws. There's also a couple of bits of flux that I can see on the board that I'm just going to go over with my bottle of isopropyl alcohol and a cotton swab. But it just goes to show I didn't even need to replace the SSD controller. It was absolutely fine. Just needed that little bit of a reflow. Didn't even use any of my own flux. As you can see, I've been playing some Astro's Playroom, just giving it a little bit of a test, and it seems to be working absolutely fine. Disk drive works, Wi-Fi works, everything is all good. So I'm pretty confident to say that this PS5 is fixed. Lovely jubbly. Let's go ahead and move on to our second item of the day. This is an Xbox One S console that I paid a grand total of £36.64 for. Let's see what our issue is. Condition wise, it looks a little bit dirty on the top over here, but other than that, it looks all right. And the important thing, oh, well, I guess it is very important. This looks like it's been taken off before. Yeah, you shouldn't be able to remove it that easily, that's for sure. HDMI port does look untouched, however, which is nice. Let's see what happens when we go to plug it in. Can't actually remember what the issue of this one is. 3, 2, 1. Power's on. We get a beep. It's good. Means that it's not no power. And it's not beep on, beep off, which is also a result. Let's see if we get a display. I'll keep my eye on this as well, just in case it does turn off. No display. Doesn't look like it, does it? No disc either. Definitely no display. Now, from my understanding, as you can see, this is still on. I'm going to wait about a minute or so. If this light turns off in that minute period, that can actually indicate usually a bad hard drive. So we can just replace the hard drive and that'll be it. It'll be fixed. However, if it lasts longer than a minute, it's most probably something to do with the actual HDMI circuit itself. It's been a couple of minutes. It's not turned off and we also don't have an image. Let's take it apart and inspect a little bit further. Oh, just as I say that, it turned off. I don't know. The comedic time in there was impeccable. So that was actually a couple of minutes. Let's take the hard drive out and test that in our PC. Somebody has definitely over-tightened these screws because even my drill is struggling, and it's on torque 6, which is the max setting that it has. Sorry, my electric screwdriver. I think the hard drive's over here. I'll take all of these out anyway because I'll repaste it if I can actually fix it. Cool, that's all the screws out. Now let's take our drive here. Plugging in the drive, launching crystal disk info to see if we get the which indicates a bad drive. It's taking a long time to load. Here we go. Whoa, it's grayed out. This night, I've never seen it grayed out. It just says unknown. Never seen that. So whatever it is, it's failing to read the drive. Now what I'm going to do, I've actually got a 1TB SSD. I'm going to put that in this console and see if that drastically bumps up how much we actually get for it. Usually with an Xbox One S, if it was a 500GB hard drive, I'd look for anywhere around the region of £55 to £60. If it was a 1TB hard drive, probably around the £70 mark. If I put a 1TB SSD in, I wonder if I'm going to get around about £90 for this. Obviously, I've paid for this. This wasn't a donor. I didn't take it out of a console, and I'll let you know the cost for this at the end, only because I can't remember off the top of my head and I'll have to look through some emails. Let's get this SSD in this Xbox One S. I did say I would do thermal paste first, right? So I guess I'll do that first. I'm pretty confident that this is going to be the issue. This on an Xbox One S is the X clamp, and this actually holds together the fan and the heatsink which sits on top of the APU. Creates pressure so that thermal paste can spread itself easily and ultimately cool down the console. This is called the X clamp removal tool, which has these little hinges here. You can use a screwdriver with a Phillips, but a lot of the time what you end up doing is scratching the board because you're sliding all over the place. This tool makes life 1,000 times easier, and it's only like £1 or something. Affiliate link I'll leave down below. And that is some dry thermal paste. And that is a nice amount of new, fresh thermal paste. Nice, not perfect. There's only one human on this planet that can apply the correct amount of thermal paste. Now I'm going to turn this on. If I'm correct, what we should see, it's turned on, is E106 display on the screen. That is going to be if the console works. The fans whirring up. Does it display E106? E105. Close enough, close enough. What I should be able to do now is go to offline system update and hopefully update. There it is. OSU 1, also known as offline system update, is exactly what it says on the tin. I can't just plug in, I'm trying to look for one, a random SSD to the Xbox, push the power button, and it starts working. I need to install the official software for the Xbox, and you get that from the official Xbox website. Again, I'll leave a link down below in the description. Once this has done its thing, it should actually be quite quick because I'm going from SSD to SSD. I'll test all the functions like the disk drive and the Wi-Fi and get back to you to confirm. Hopefully, a lovely 2 out of 2. And here we go. Console is all nice and clean, as well as the fact everything's working. Disk drive, Wi-Fi, all that good stuff. Let's head on over to Sally's spectacular spreadsheet to see if we've made a profit. Now, after looking back and seeing how much I purchased the 1TB drives for, I think the 1TB drives is a good price. I just don't think I'm going to be able to claw my profit back putting them into an Xbox One S, unfortunately. This PS5 cost me £148. The parts, $0 because it was just a reflow. Estimated sell price, I'm going to go £240 for the PS5, which makes us a nice cushy £70.40 roughly. The Xbox One S, it was £30 for the drive. So the 1TB drive was almost as much as what I paid for the actual faulty console. And I hope I'll be able to get, I'm going to say 85, which will give me a profit of £10.71. Now, is that worth it? £10.71, taking it apart, probably about, 30 minutes worth of labor by the time that you've put OSU 1 onto the console, you've tested it, etc. Oh, plus we obviously got the postage cost. I don't even know. Yes, £2.72. Yeesh. So we're looking at a rough profit today of £55.13, which isn't bad. All in all, to be honest, I'd say maybe an hour between both of them. Didn't take me long in any way, shape or form. None of the Xbox Series X consoles have sold yet either, so I haven't really got any updating to do. But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, hit the thumbs up button. I'll leave some more content up here for you to watch. And as always, I shall see you in the next one. Peace.